Hey, this is DeagleBeagle, and today we're going to look at slaking for Regulation E. Now, you may be wondering, how can you use this Pokemon and how is it even good in Regulation E? Well, let me show you something. Wheezing Galar has neutralizing gas, even though Misty Surge is also a good ability. It might even be more common than neutralizing gas just because everyone's tired of Amoonguss, Thunderwave spam, somewhat a Will-O-Wisp, even though that was more common in the past. But regardless, it gets neutralizing gas. You can't use Reg E, so you're kind of so one of the best like Pokemon to use with neutralizing gas might be Slaking, and I'll have to think of a few others later. But it'll probably be used also to mess with the opponent's abilities, not just boost up an ally. It'll probably be used about equally for that. So expect slaking to be somewhat common, ironically, because of wheezing. So here are some sets I came up with. I didn't get these from anyone. I've just been playing Pokemon for so long. I just know what are good sets to run with stuff, even though the most common sets, we'll have to see what it is. But I believe a lot of people will use Toxic Orb with Slaking. And why do I believe that? Because if you look at its moveset, it doesn't get Return, Frustration, or even Double Edge. So you're kind of like, look, if you sort by the typing, you'll see that the most powerful physical move it has is Giga Impact. Now, you could use Giga Impact. Um, you probably wouldn't want to use Flail. You could, I suppose, I could make an Endure Flail set, but Slaking, I don't know if it would be the ideal Pokemon for that. Maybe, but you would probably for consistency not want to have to do Endure Flail stuff, especially in OTS. They'll just see that kind of coming and try to play around it by like attacking your other Pokemon the turn you endure and then flail. Now it does get other moves like Crush Claw, but the way I mean, yeah, Crush Claw is definitely usable, and you could argue it's about as good as Body Slam. I just think it's only a 50% chance, and look, you can miss 5% of the time. So that and having lower power, I probably wouldn't do it. And with Body Slam, you still get a 30% chance to paralyze the target, which is almost 50% chance to have some secondary effect. And paralyzing them is probably about as good as lowering their defense. Possibly worse, possibly better, depending on if you need the speed drop and if you get a fully paralysis and stuff eventually. So, so I would go with Body Slam personally, but not on this set though. You should use Facade if you're using Toxic Orb. I foolishly was thinking of like Flame Orb at first for Facade because normally you should use Flame Orb because it does like less damage to the user over time. Um, but but it lowers your attack for all these other moves that you want to use, like Heavy Slam, Drain Punch, Play Rough. So use Toxic Orb because it doesn't have guts. Normally, if it had guts, Flame Orb would be the better item. So let's see. Heavy Slam is for Flutter Mane and a few other Pokemon, but mostly Fairy types or Mons that are weak to it. That may you could use it for Pokemon that resist Facade, like a Rock type. Let's just say Tyranitar, for example. Some Rock type, even though Tyranitar is not a great example since it's not highly used. Let's look at the highly used rock types. Yeah, Arcanine H would be a better example. Some people use Cleaver, even though I don't think it's that great. Garganicle's not used that much. Glamora is used a decent amount, even though you might not want to hit it with the move because it'll activate Toxic Debris. But Heavy Slam just looks useful in general versus like Arcanine and mostly Fluttermane I'm thinking of because it's the most common Pokemon, like 70% usage. So I'd say for sure use a normal move to take advantage of the stab and Heavy Slam. And I don't even think it gets Iron Head or anything. It gets Metal Claw. Nah. You would want to use Heavy Slam in either Facade or Body Slam or Crush Claw, most likely. And then those are the first two moves. And then after that, it's kind of whatever. Now, if you're using Toxic Orb, actually, I'm wrong. That doesn't boost up Drain Punch because it doesn't get Guts. So you don't really need Drain Punch on the Toxic Orb set. I was thinking of like Hariyama. So it's kind of filler. You could even use Protect with it. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of bulky already, especially like, let's look at how you could EV this thing. So it naturally has really high stats in general, but its weakest stat that it would use is special defense. So I did the math. Look, if you max HP, you raise defense and special defense essentially by 14.2%. Now, if you max defense, you essentially raise it by 26%, but you don't help on the special defense side at all, and that's its weakest link. So you would want to probably boost special defense first, because look at it. If you divide this in half, just like this one, if you divide this in half, this is slightly less efficient than maxing HP, assuming they hit you with physical and special moves about the same amount of times. But this, you divide this in half and it's not even close. That would be almost like 0.2, so it's just like higher than this. So I mean, it just makes sense to me. Like, you're balancing out its weakest stat. Just, it already has high HP, so maxing HP wouldn't be as efficient um, as raising special defense, most likely. So it seems like you should max HP, but you actually shouldn't. And on other Pokemon like Dondozo, max HP might make more sense, even though it has lower special defense. But it depends on the item too. You're not using leftovers with slaking unless you are. If you're using leftovers, then you recover more HP with higher HP, so it might make more sense. But slaking doesn't necessarily need all that defense. But a Pokemon like Dondozo might need defense to wall, like a Wild Charge or a Wood Hammer or whatever, Sacred Sword. Like Dondozo gets hit by probably just as many physical attacks as special. Um, but yeah, I might actually re-EV my Dondozo a little bit more to have some more special defense, but it just gets hit with so many physical hits that sometimes just maxing HP is better. I could make actually a slaking set with leftovers. So as far as the standard moves, though, I think powerful normal move, or just a normal move in general, Heavy Slam, and then if in general, you might want to play rough if you have Tera Fairy. Tera Fairy is probably going to be a staple move, a staple Tera, because if you just look at like what resists fighting, you'll see that Fairy is probably the best overall, because where is it? Fairy resists fighting, bug, dark, but you could use another Tera like bug. It's just, I think there's more things that super affect bug than fairy. And then flying, I guess you could use, but there's like a lot of Chi and Pow and whatnot, so I don't know about flying. That just seems kind of weird, but I guess you could use flying. Poison wouldn't be bad, to be fair, either. Um, yeah, poison would be fine. I mean, it really depends on the team. I just don't run Ghost though, because if you run Terra Ghost, you could, but um, you are immune to fighting moves. But then you're just weak to like Crunch from Qian Pao, and that Pokemon typically runs Sacred Sword and Crunch now, or at least Sucker Punch. So you might want to use a Terra that doesn't make you weak to their secondary move, you know? So that's why I was thinking of Fairy. But like I was saying, it shouldn't be the only Terra that I recommend. I probably wouldn't recommend Terra Normal considering how you could use it on the Facade set possibly for more power, but generally you would want to use a defensive Terra even though it has a lot of bulk already, because it just seems like, at least on this Pokemon, it's not super fast. Slaking's not super fast and or super slow, so you can't really like outspeed and one shot it. But even on Pokemon that are like Ursaluna, it usually fares better to like wall it in attack while you hit the ally. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck, and they can just knock you out. Let's just say, but you can get out of an unfavorable position with a defensive Terra. That's why usually things should be using defensive Terras. Like even Chi Yu would use Terra Ghost. In some rare cases, though, uh, not super rare, but kind of rare, like Fluttermane might want Tera Fairy, but a Pokemon like Slaking would just want like either Tera Fairy or Terra. What was I saying? Flying or Bug or Poison. Poison would actually probably be about as good or better than Fairy. And if you're using Poison, I don't think it would probably be worth using Play Rough. Play Rough can miss, but I just figure if you're already using Tera Fairy, then you might as well. Another option you maybe could use is, like I was saying, Assault Vest, except this, whatever, you can make it Terra Poison or something. And you could even use like Ice Punch if you want to hit Landorus, T, and a few other Pokemon that are trying to intimidate it. In fact, even this one could. You could use Ice Punch because it doesn't necessarily even need Protect. And I mean, it only having one weakness is pretty good. So pretty good defensive typing. Offensive typing is kind of meh, but defensively it's pretty good. And yeah, you wouldn't have Truant. Assault Vest would take advantage of it. No, you don't want to EV it like that. Even with Assault Vest, you would probably want. It makes it more efficient with Assault Vest to raise special defense too. But the other thing is, it's like a law of diminishing returns. If you raise the special defense too much, then it's like seems like it's unnecessary. So, I don't know. You could even give. I'm trying to think. You could even make Slaking faster too if you wanted, like to outspeed, um, what you might call it, Ursafu or something. Just max the speed. So up to you. I just think Assault Vest would be a good item if it has low special defense, and it's just a good item in general. And then maybe one more slacking set. I don't know if you probably shouldn't use this set because I mean, but it does at least take neutral from fighting, and it restores more HP with Drain Punch if you really want. Like you could even use Choice Band or Life Orb with it, and Actually, I don't think you should use. You could use Life Orb with it. I don't know. Choice Band, I probably wouldn't actually use Choice Band. Maybe, though. If you're content with just hitting things with like Body Slam. But you would probably want to take advantage of its offensive versatility. And. But I don't know, though. Life Orb does recoil a lot. So it's hard to say what you should use. I almost would want to say Expert Belt, but considering how its main move is Body Slam, that doesn't super affect anything. So you kind of probably want to use Life Orb, Choice Spin. I guess you could even use Choice Scarf, but I don't know if I would scarf it myself. So those are some good items. And then the last one I should probably show is Leftovers. This would probably be more ideal on average than another item, and use like Protect with it and Yawn. You could use this kind of set. And instead of bodies, you could use Body Slam, but I guess Body Slam's fine. I'm just imagining a scenario where you're like using Yawn and then you Body Slam them and paralyze them, and then it's like, dang, you could have just put them asleep. So maybe use Crush Claw with this set. Uh, Wait, why is it Tera Fairy? Oh, cause no, it's supposed to be like Tera, either Poison or Poison might actually be better, like I said, than Fairy in general. Just to wall Flutter Mane better and fighting moves. Actually, that would make more sense than Fairy, unless you want to use Play Rough with it. So, yeah, if you're not using Play Rough, I would probably use Poison. If you want to use Play Rough, probably use Tera Fairy. That's probably mostly it. I don't think there's a lot of other good Teras. They would just be kind of gimmicky, like Tera Fighting. But then that just makes you weak to Fairy and Flying. So and Psychic. So I don't know. I wouldn't use this personally. I would probably use Poison or Fairy. I'd probably actually use Poison unless Play Rough really hits um, things for super effective damage. It kind of does, like Iron Hands, and yeah, actually that would be pretty good to hit Rapid Strike also, and Chien Pao. There's just a lot of mons weak to Fairy, so Play Rough is good on an offensive set. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next ones. I'll be covering a bunch of other Regulation E Pokemon.